Welcome back. Tonight, we drift through the sleepy streets of Amsterdam. So wherever you are, however your day has been, you have nothing to do now but rest. There are no twists tonight, nothing to follow, nothing you need to remember in the morning. A city of dark brick and still water, growing quiet under the evening lamplight. We'll drift slowly, in no hurry to be anywhere at all. If these journeys help you rest, you're welcome to follow along, but only if you'd like to. And if you're listening now, leave the name of your city and the time where you are. Wherever you're listening from, you're in good company tonight. So let yourself settle. Let your shoulders soften, and let your eyes close whenever they're ready. Breathe in slowly, and let it go. There's no need to stay awake for any of this. Just let the streets of Amsterdam come to you. Every city's story originates from a single foundational choice, and for Amsterdam, that pivotal decision was the construction of a dam. During the 12th century, this area was little more than a small fishing village perched on the edge of the water. The inhabitants made a collective decision to build a dam across the Amstel River, an unassuming structure that would ultimately give the place both its name and its enduring purpose. This was the initial step in a long process of mastering the water and establishing a secure harbor for vessels. From that singular act of construction, a city slowly began to emerge and expand. The dam provided control over the unpredictable river, which in turn fostered trade and allowed a community to establish permanent roots in the precarious marshland. All the canals, grand houses and vibrant thoroughfares that would subsequently define the city can be traced back to this foundational act. It serves as a quiet reminder that magnificent cities often arise from very humble beginnings, starting with a practical solution to a local challenge. The ground beneath Amsterdam is inherently soft and unsteady, a foundation composed of marshland and clay rather than solid bedrock. This geological reality presented a formidable challenge to the city's ambitious early builders. In order to construct the tall, heavy buildings that would come to define the urban landscape, they first needed to secure a stable footing in the unstable substrate. Their solution was both ingenious in its concept and immense in its scale, involving the driving of millions of long wooden piles deep into the ground. These piles functioned like massive stilts, penetrating the soft upper layers to find purchase on a firm bed of sand located far below. Consequently, the entire city is, in a very real sense, held aloft by a hidden, subterranean forest. This unseen structure stands as a powerful testament to the city's long and patient struggle against its own geography. Every house, church and bridge ultimately rests upon this silent, wooden foundation, which is the secret that prevents Amsterdam from slowly sinking back into the marsh from which it came. The famous canals of Amsterdam feel so natural and integrated that one might assume they grew slowly over time. However, the iconic concentric canal ring was not an accident of organic growth, but rather a deliberate and massive act of 17th-century city planning. As the city needed to expand during the Dutch Golden Age, a grand and orderly design was implemented, instead of allowing for chaotic development. This ambitious project created the three main canals, in a perfect, elegant arc, with the explicit goal of building a beautiful and harmonious city for the wealthy merchants who were driving its prosperity. The canals were conceived as more than just transport routes. They were a powerful statement of prosperity, order, and a new way of conceptualizing urban life. This planned expansion is the fundamental reason the city center possesses its refined, harmonious character, a masterpiece of intentional urban design. As you walk along the canals, you will inevitably notice that the houses are remarkably and consistently narrow. This distinctive architectural feature is not merely a matter of aesthetic preference, but is the direct consequence of a 16th-century tax policy. During that period, property taxes were calculated based on the width of a building's facade along the canal, meaning the wider the house, the higher the tax. To minimize their financial burden, merchants and homeowners constructed their houses to be as narrow as possible, compensating for the lack of width by making them exceptionally deep and tall. This single piece of fiscal legislation profoundly shaped the appearance of the entire city center for centuries, creating the iconic rows of slender, gabled houses that are so intrinsically associated with Amsterdam. It remains a fascinating example of how a simple financial rule can exert a lasting and beautiful influence on the physical form of a city. The gabled roofs that crown Amsterdam's canal houses are one of their most charming and recognizable features. However, the prominent beams that protrude from the apex of these gables were not installed for purely decorative reasons. They were a practical and essential piece of equipment. Because the houses were built so narrowly, the staircases inside were often steep and constricted, making it nearly impossible to carry large items like furniture or merchant goods up to the upper floors. The hoisting beam provided the elegant solution to this problem. A rope and pulley could be attached to the beam, which allowed cargo and furniture to be lifted directly from the street to the desired level of the house. This feature was a direct consequence of the very architecture that the tax laws had incentivized, a symbol of the city's practical ingenuity and a distinctive part of its visual identity. Amsterdam's Golden Age was not constructed by a single group of people, but was instead profoundly fueled by the arrival of thousands of refugees seeking safety and economic opportunity. During the 16th and 17th centuries, skilled Huguenots fled religious persecution in France, while at the same time, Sephardic Jews arrived from Spain and Portugal, bringing with them extensive trade networks and sophisticated financial knowledge. These new populations were not merely absorbed by the city, they actively transformed it. They introduced new industries such as silk weaving and diamond cutting, established new global trade routes, and brought an influx of immense wealth. This convergence of talent, capital, and diverse perspectives was a key ingredient in the city's extraordinary economic expansion. The relative tolerance that Amsterdam offered was repaid with a cultural and financial boom that elevated the city to become one of the most important in the world. The Golden Age was, in many respects, an age defined by immigration. Today, the Jordaan district is widely regarded as one of Amsterdam's most desirable and charming neighborhoods. Its quiet canals and picturesque houses offering a peaceful escape from the city center. However, it did not begin this way. The Jordan was originally conceived and built as a planned neighborhood for the working class. As the city expanded rapidly during the Golden Age, it required a designated area for the laborers, artisans, and immigrants who powered its burgeoning economy. The Jordan became that place, a designated overflow area constructed just outside the Grand Canal Ring where the wealthy elite resided. Its streets and canals were laid out following the pattern of old fields and drainage ditches, which gives the neighborhood its more organic and intimate layout. For centuries it was a poor, crowded yet vibrant community, and its transformation into a fashionable district is a relatively recent chapter in its long and complex story. Amsterdam's central station stands as the grand gateway to the city, feeling so permanent that it seems it must have always been there, a solid anchor at the edge of the old town. Yet its construction in the late 19th century was a monumental feat of engineering that forever altered the city's relationship with its waterfront. The station was not built upon existing land, but was instead constructed on 3 interconnected artificial islands, which were painstakingly created in the IJ River. This massive project necessitated driving thousands of wooden piles into the harbor bed to create a stable foundation. The decision to place the station in this location was controversial at the time, as it created a formidable barrier that permanently separated the old city from the open water that had been its commercial lifeblood for centuries. While the station gave Amsterdam a modern connection to Europe, it also turned the city's back on its own historic harbor. By the 19th century, Amsterdam was facing a severe existential crisis. The city's historic harbor, the very source of its Golden Age wealth, was slowly but surely silting up. Its traditional connection to the sea, the Zuiderzee, was becoming too shallow for the larger modern ships of the era, placing the city at risk of becoming irrelevant as a major port. To survive, Amsterdam had to completely reinvent its connection to the world. The solution was incredibly ambitious: the construction of the North Sea Canal. This was a massive waterway dug directly west from the city, cutting straight through the coastal dunes to the open sea. It was a colossal undertaking that required new technologies and immense labor, but it successfully bypassed the old failing sea route. This bold act of engineering gave Amsterdam a deep, direct, and reliable link to global shipping lanes, saving the city's port and securing its economic future for another century. In the year 1578, a quiet revolution took place in Amsterdam that decisively set the course for its future success. This event, known as the Shoorkolotieatepraat-Kolotieale-Septentuurbroekexaleisen, occurred while the city was ruled by a Catholic government loyal to Spain, even as the surrounding province of Holland was Protestant and fighting for independence. In a bloodless coup, the Protestant city militia deposed the Catholic city government, escorting the ruling officials to a boat and simply sending them away without any violence. This pivotal moment aligned Amsterdam with William of Orange and the broader Dutch revolt. More importantly, it ushered in an era of religious tolerance, as the new Protestant government was keen to attract merchants and thinkers of all faiths to bolster their cause. This new openness, born from a peaceful shift in power, laid the essential groundwork for the city's subsequent economic boom, and its enduring reputation as a haven for free thought. The final year of the Second World War left a deep and lasting scar on the collective memory of Amsterdam. The Hunger Winter of 1944 to 1945 was a terrible famine that unfolded during the Nazi occupation, after a German blockade cut off all food and fuel supplies to the Western Netherlands. The city's residents were left to starve, forcing people to resort to eating tulip bulbs and sugar beets simply to survive. This famine caused the deaths of thousands of Amsterdammers, and became a defining trauma for the generation that lived through it. The collective memory of this extreme hardship had a profound effect on the city's post-war identity, leading to a strong public commitment to social welfare, and a fierce, shared desire to build a society where such a catastrophe could never happen again. The experience fundamentally shaped the city's modern ethos of social responsibility and care. The reason Amsterdam is a world-famous bicycle city today has deep roots in the counterculture of the 1960s. A playful and provocative movement known as Provo actively challenged the established norms of the time, viewing the rise of automobiles as a direct threat to the city's human scale and quality of life. They protested against consumerism and car culture through a series of non-violent theatrical happenings. One of their most famous ideas was the White Bicycle Plan, which proposed that the city provide thousands of white-painted bicycles for everyone to use for free. While the original plan was never fully implemented by the authorities, the idea itself took hold in the public consciousness. The activism of the Provo movement planted a crucial seed, shifting public opinion, and eventually policy, towards favoring bicycles over cars. Their playful protests are a direct and significant reason why Amsterdam evolved into the cyclist's paradise it is today. Some of the widest and busiest thoroughfares in Amsterdam city centre were not originally designed as streets. Avenues like the Damrak and Rokin, which now carry a constant flow of trams, cars and pedestrians, were once open water. These were the final stretches of the Amstel River, flowing directly through the heart of the city and serving as vital harbors. During the 19th and early 20th centuries, a significant decision was made to fill in many of these canals and waterways, primarily to improve sanitation and to create more space for modern forms of traffic. This process dramatically altered the city's landscape and its fundamental ratio of water to land. While it made the city more accessible to trams and cars, it also erased significant parts of its historic, water-based character. When you walk down these wide boulevards today, you are walking on top of a buried river, a hidden history concealed just beneath the pavement. The leaning, crooked houses that line the canals are one of Amsterdam's most iconic and charming sights, appearing to dance and sway as they lean against each other for support. This whimsical effect, however, was not an intentional design choice, but is the slow, cumulative result of time and geology. The houses are constructed upon those millions of wooden piles, which were driven deep into the soft, marshy soil. Over hundreds of years, these foundations have settled unevenly as the soft ground shifts and the wooden piles slowly sink or degrade, causing the buildings above to tilt at various angles. Each house leans in a slightly different direction, creating the famous dancing effect. It is a visible reminder of the unstable ground upon which the city is built, and the constant quiet struggle between the built environment and the forces of nature. The city's charming imperfection is a direct product of its very foundation. Schiphol Airport serves as a major international hub and is recognized as one of the busiest in the world, but its location is quite remarkable. The airport was not constructed on natural solid ground. It was built on the floor of a large lake, the Haarlemmermeer, which was painstakingly drained in the 19th century. This reclaimed land, known as a polder, sits significantly below sea level. In fact, the entire airport is situated more than 4 meters, or about 13 feet, below the average water level of the surrounding sea. This distinction makes Schiphol one of the lowest-lying major airports on the entire planet. It is a strange thought that as aeroplanes take off and land, they are doing so on what was once the bottom of a vast lake. It stands as a powerful example of the Dutch mastery over water, transforming a huge body of water into a global gateway. As you walk through the innermost part of Amsterdam, you will likely cross the single canal, which might feel like just another of the city's many waterways, but it holds a special historical significance. The single was not originally constructed for housing or transport. It was dug around the year 1480 to serve as the city's primary defensive moat. For a period of time, this canal marked the complete boundary of medieval Amsterdam, with everything inside the single constituting the city, and everything outside being countryside. Although the fortified wall that once stood alongside it is long gone, the moat itself remains. Walking along its path today is akin to tracing the very edge of the 15th century city. It offers a quiet way to connect with a much older version of Amsterdam, from a time when the city was a small, fortified town, preparing to grow into a world power. In the 1960s, Amsterdam embarked on a grand and ambitious urban experiment in the southeast of the city. The Bijlmermeer estate was designed as a utopian vision of modern living, heavily inspired by the ideas of the architect Le Corbusier. It featured massive hexagonal apartment blocks set within a park-like landscape, with elevated roads that separated cars from pedestrians and cyclists below. It was a bold attempt to solve the post-war housing crisis and create a perfect, functional city of the future. However, the project encountered significant social and structural problems, as the large scale felt anonymous, and the strict separation of functions created isolated and sometimes unsafe areas. The partial failure of the Bijlmer taught the city valuable lessons, and its subsequent redevelopment, which involved demolishing some of the large blocks to create more traditional streets, demonstrated a new appreciation for the importance of community, human scale and mixed-use design. The incredible wealth that defined Amsterdam's golden age had a very specific and powerful source. It was largely financed by the Dutch East India Company, more commonly known as the VOC. Founded in Amsterdam in 1602, the VOC was a revolutionary enterprise for its time, functioning as the world's first multinational corporation, and the first company to issue publicly traded stock. It was granted a state monopoly on the lucrative spice trade with Asia, and its profits were astronomical. This river of money flowed directly back to Amsterdam, where the wealthy merchants and directors of the VOC were the ones who built the magnificent mansions along the newly constructed canal ring. They commissioned the era's great art, funded scientific expeditions, and drove the city's economy to unprecedented heights. The grand canals and opulent houses you see today are the direct physical legacy of the immense profits generated by this powerful and often ruthless trading company operating half a world away. Surrounding Amsterdam at a distance is a vast and mostly invisible defensive structure, known as the Stelling van Amsterdam, or the Defense Line of Amsterdam. This 135-kilometer ring of fortifications, built between 1880 and 1914, was a marvel of late 19th century military engineering. The line consisted of 45 forts, as well as a complex system of dikes and sluices designed for a specific purpose. In the event of an invasion, vast areas of low-lying land around the ring could be deliberately flooded with water. This would turn the city into a national redoubt, a nearly impenetrable fortress island that would be almost impossible for ground forces to attack. The line was never actually used in war, as the advent of the aeroplane rendered it obsolete shortly after its completion. For decades, however, its existence shaped military strategy and urban planning, and it remains today as a silent green belt around the city, a monument to a bygone era of defense. For much of the 20th century, the city's eastern docklands were a landscape of industrial activity, which later gave way to widespread decay. The massive piers and warehouses that once served the city's bustling shipping trade fell into disuse as the port modernized and moved elsewhere. By the 1980s, the area was largely abandoned and derelict. However, in the late 20th century, the city saw a unique opportunity in this industrial ruin. Instead of simply clearing the land, Amsterdam began a deliberate pivot towards innovative residential life. The old piers were transformed into new neighborhoods, and warehouses were converted into apartments. World-renowned architects were invited to design unique housing projects that respected the area's industrial heritage, while looking to the future. This ambitious transformation turned the Eastern Docklands into a celebrated showcase of modern Dutch architecture, and a highly desirable place to live, a conscious choice to embrace the future, without completely erasing the past. During the Middle Ages, Amsterdam was a relatively minor trading town, but its transformation into a significant European center was aided by an event that became known as the Miracle of Amsterdam. In 1345, a dying man was given the last rites, and after he was sick, the consecrated host was thrown into a fire, but reportedly remained completely untouched by the flames. This event was officially declared a Eucharistic miracle by the Church. As the story spread, Amsterdam became a major pilgrimage site, attracting thousands of devout visitors who flocked to the city to visit the chapel where the miracle had occurred. This influx of pilgrims provided a significant and sustained boost to the local economy, as they all required food, lodging, and goods. This demographic and economic stimulus was crucial for the city's growth, helping it expand beyond a simple trading post and setting the stage for its later prominence. Sometimes, a disaster in one location can create an unforeseen opportunity in another, and the catastrophic St. Elizabeth's flood of 1421 was one such event. This massive North Sea storm surge submerged huge areas of land to the south of Amsterdam, completely reshaping the geography of the entire region. Entire villages were washed away, and vast inland seas were created where there had once been fertile farmland. For Amsterdam, however, this disaster had an unintended positive consequence. The flood dramatically altered traditional inland trade routes, making it more difficult for rival cities to access the sea. Amsterdam's position, by contrast, became more advantageous, as its harbour remained secure, and was now comparatively more accessible to shipping. As a result, merchants and trade that might have gone elsewhere were diverted to the city. The flood, while a tragedy for many, inadvertently strengthened Amsterdam's position as a key port, contributing to its rise as a dominant center for trade in the centuries that followed. In the 1630s, Amsterdam found itself gripped by a strange and frantic obsession that would become one of the first recorded speculative bubbles in history. This tulip mania began after tulips, recently introduced from the Ottoman Empire, became an incredible status symbol. Rare multicolored bulbs became wildly sought after, and their prices soared to extraordinary and unsustainable levels. At the peak of the mania, a single rare tulip bulb could be traded for the price of a large canal house, or a lifetime of wages for a skilled craftsman. Fortunes were made and lost overnight in the city's taverns, where much of the frenzied trading took place. Then, in February of 1637, the market suddenly collapsed. Prices plummeted, and many investors were completely ruined. For the pragmatic merchant city of Amsterdam, the tulip mania served as a dramatic and sobering lesson in the inherent dangers of financial speculation and the madness of crowds. Amsterdam possesses a strong and enduring tradition of social housing, an idea that grew directly from the difficult living conditions of the early 20th century. Neighborhoods like the Jordaan had become overcrowded and squalid, with poor sanitation and substandard housing for the working classes. In response to this public health crisis, the city passed a housing act that enabled non-profit housing associations to build better homes for working-class families. This policy directly led to the rise of a unique architectural style known as the Amsterdam School. Architects of this movement believed that beautiful design should not be reserved for the wealthy, creating housing blocks that were like massive sculptures, with expressive brickwork, organic forms, and artistic details. They treated workers' housing as a total work of art, aiming to create a humane and beautiful environment for everyone. This commitment to quality social housing fundamentally shaped the look and social fabric of many of the city's 20th century neighborhoods. The Rijksmuseum is the National Museum of the Netherlands, a grand building filled with priceless art, yet a public road runs directly through its center. For years this passageway was a point of significant contention. During the museum's long renovation in the 21st century, a plan was put forth to close the underpass to cyclists, dedicating it solely to pedestrians and museum visitors. This proposal sparked a fierce and prolonged protest from the city's powerful bicycle advocates, who argued that the route was an essential public right-of-way and a vital artery for daily commuters. After a long and very public battle, the cyclists ultimately won. The decision to keep the passageway open was a major victory that cemented the powerful idea that in Amsterdam, the city's infrastructure must serve the daily lives of its people, not just its grand institutions. It remains a path for everyone. On Dam Square, the Royal Palace stands as a symbol of solid, permanent authority. Its classical facade, constructed from pale sandstone, appears immense and unshakable, as if it were rooted in the very bedrock of the city. This, however, is a carefully constructed illusion. Like so much of historic Amsterdam, the palace is built upon soft, marshy ground. To support its incredible weight, an entire forest was driven into the earth beneath it. The seemingly solid stone behemoth actually rests on a staggering 13,600 659 wooden piles. Each pile, crafted from a Norwegian spruce tree and about 10 meters long, helps create a stable foundation deep in the sand layer below. The palace's grandeur is therefore not just in its visible architecture, but also in this incredible, unseen feat of engineering that holds it aloft. It is, in essence, a floating palace, resting on a hidden forest. In the heart of the red light district, nestled among the neon lights and bustling crowds, lies a truly remarkable secret. Behind the unassuming facade of a 17th-century canal house, you can find a complete, clandestine Catholic church. Known as Our Lord in the Attic, it was constructed during the Reformation, a period when public Catholic worship was outlawed. To continue their faith in secret, the wealthy merchant who owned the property converted the top 3 floors of his home into a fully functioning church, complete with an altar, pews, and even a small organ. For 200 years, congregations gathered here in secret to worship. Visiting it today is a strange and moving experience. You climb the narrow stairs of what feels like a normal house, and suddenly emerge into a beautiful, light-filled sacred space. It is a powerful testament to faith, and a hidden layer of the city's complex religious history. The Oude Kerk, or Old Church, stands as Amsterdam's most ancient building, its vast, open interior, filled with a pale northern light. As you walk across its floor, you might notice the stones beneath your feet are not uniform, but are carved with numbers, names, and coats of arms. This is because the entire floor of the church is composed of gravestones. For centuries, prominent citizens of Amsterdam were buried here, and over 2,500 graves lie beneath the flagstones, containing the remains of an estimated 10,000 people. The stones have been worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, making the inscriptions faint and difficult to read. Walking here is like walking on a carpet of history, treading softly over the lives of sea captains, mayors, and artists, including Rembrandt's wife, Saskia. The church is not just a place of worship, it is a public archive of the city's dead. There are over 1,500 bridges in Amsterdam, yet few are as beloved as the Brug, or Skinny Bridge. It is a classic Dutch double-leaf bascule bridge, which means it opens in the middle, to allow taller boats to pass through on the Amstel River. The current bridge is a wider 20th century replacement of an original 17th century bridge that was said to be so narrow that 2 people could barely pass one another. During the day it is a delicate white-painted structure, but it is at night that the bridge truly transforms. It is adorned with thousands of small light bulbs that trace its elegant form, and when these lights are switched on, they create a perfect, shimmering reflection in the dark water below. It becomes a magical, symmetrical spectacle of light, a favorite spot for a quiet evening walk, and a true icon of the city. Many of the old houses in Amsterdam appear to be leaning forward, canting out over the canal as if bowing to the street. While some of this tilt is indeed due to the slow settling of their foundations, much of it was done on purpose. This intentional forward lean is an architectural design known as op de vlucht, which translates to on the flight. The reason for this was purely practical, and directly related to the hoisting beams at the top of the gables, which were used to lift goods and furniture. By having the facade lean forward, there was a reduced risk of the items being hoisted, striking the wall, or breaking windows on the lower floors as they were lifted. It was a clever and simple solution to a problem created by the city's characteristically narrow architecture. The leaning houses are not falling, they are simply designed for work. The plaza in front of Amsterdam's central station is a constant whirlwind of activity, with trams, pedestrians and tourists crisscrossing the space. Yet, beneath this busy surface lies a hidden world, a modern cathedral dedicated to the bicycle. To clear the plaza of the thousands of bikes that were once chaotically parked there, the city constructed a massive, state-of-the-art underwater bicycle garage. You descend on escalators into a bright, clean space of concrete and steel, where neat rows provide space for 7,000 bicycles. It is a quiet, orderly world, situated directly beneath the waters of the open haven front. This incredible piece of infrastructure is a testament to how seriously Amsterdam takes its cycling culture. It is a practical solution that also serves as a powerful statement about the importance of the bicycle in the life of the city, keeping the entrance clear and the city moving. From the outside, the Paved Tuschinski Theatre is an unusual and striking building, but its unique exterior only hints at the fantasy world that lies within. Once you step inside, you are transported to one of the most spectacular and lavish interiors in the world. Designed in the 1920s, it is a breathtaking and seamless blend of Art Deco, Art Nouveau, and Amsterdam school styles. The main auditorium is an opulent dream, a symphony of intricate patterns, plush red carpets, and dramatic colorful lighting. Every surface appears to be decorated, from the hand-painted ceiling to the elegantly carved balconies. It was conceived as a total work of art, a place where the act of going to the movies was intended to be a truly magical experience. Even today, sitting in the main hall before a film begins, feels like you are part of a special hidden world of glamour and imagination. Near the Westerkerk, set directly into the cobblestones by the canal, is a simple, yet profoundly powerful memorial. The Hummer Monument, unveiled in 1987, was the world's first freestanding monument to commemorate the gay men and lesbians who were persecuted and killed by the Nazis. It consists of 3 large pink granite triangles, a direct reference to the symbol that homosexuals were forced to wear in concentration camps. One triangle points toward the National War Memorial on Dam Square, linking this persecution to all victims of war. Another points to the Anne Frank House, a reminder of the horrors of intolerance. The third triangle points to the headquarters of a gay rights organization, symbolizing the present and future struggle for equality. It is a living monument, a place of remembrance, protest, and quiet contemplation, fully integrated into the fabric of the city. Just off the busy Spui Square, concealed behind an unassuming door, lies a hidden world of profound peace and quiet. The Begijnhof is a secluded courtyard that dates back to the Middle Ages, originally established as a residence for the Begijns, a Catholic sisterhood of unmarried women who lived a religious life without taking formal vows. Stepping into the courtyard feels like stepping back in time, as it is an oasis of tranquility with a neat green lawn surrounded by historic houses. The noise of the city fades away completely here. Within the courtyard, you can find the oldest wooden house in Amsterdam, a rare survivor from the 15th century. Although the Begijnhof is no longer a religious commune, it remains a private and peaceful residential area, a reminder that even in the busiest parts of the city, secret gardens and quiet histories are waiting to be discovered. Sitting on the waterfront like a giant green-hulled vessel is the Nemo Science Museum. Its distinctive ship-like form, covered in pre-patinated green copper, is a modern landmark of the city. The building was designed by the renowned Italian architect Renzo Piano, who did not just design a museum, but also created a new public space for the city. The most remarkable feature of the building is its massive sloping roof, which is not merely a covering but a public piazza accessible to everyone, regardless of whether they visit the museum. You can walk all the way to the top along a grand staircase. From this elevated position, you are rewarded with one of the best panoramic views of Amsterdam's historic center and its busy harbor. It is a place where architecture becomes landscape, a popular spot to relax on a sunny day and watch the city unfold below. As you wander through the quieter streets of Amsterdam, particularly in the Jordaan district, it is worth looking up at the brick walls of the older buildings. There you can often find faint, painted advertisements for businesses that have long since vanished. These are known as ghost signs, and they might advertise a brand of cigars, a type of soap, or a long-forgotten dairy. The paint is faded and peeling, the lettering from another era entirely. Each sign is a faint echo of the neighborhood's commercial past, a whisper of a time when these residential streets were also places of work and small industry. They have become accidental monuments, preserved by time and neglect, adding a layer of texture and history to the streetscape. They are a quiet reminder of the daily life and commerce that once filled these very same buildings 100 years ago. The bell tower of the Westerkerk, known as the Westertoren, is a beloved symbol of Amsterdam, famously mentioned in Anne Frank's diary as a comforting presence. Many people assume that the symbol at the very top of the tower is a cross, as is common on most churches. However, if you look closely, you will see it is something quite different. The tower is topped with the bright blue imperial crown of Austria, which may seem strange for a Dutch Protestant church. The crown was a gift to the city, granted by the Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian I in 1489, after he was supposedly cured of an illness in Amsterdam. He gave the city the right to use his crown in its coat of arms, and when the Westerkerk was built, the crown was placed atop its tower as a symbol of the city's status. It remains there today, a bright, colorful, and surprising piece of civic history. The Eastern Docklands area is well known for its bold and innovative modern architecture, and one of the most striking and playful examples is the Python Bridge. This bright red footbridge connects the residential islands of Sporenburg and Borneo, but it does not cross the water in a straight line. Instead, it snakes and undulates across the channel in a high, curving wave, its serpentine shape both dramatic and whimsical. It is a piece of functional sculpture that turns the simple act of crossing into a small adventure, as you climb the steep arch and then descend on the other side. The bridge is a powerful symbol of the creative and unconventional spirit that defined the area's redevelopment. It stands as a joyful and imaginative solution to the simple problem of getting from one side of the water to the other, and a beloved landmark for the people who live there. The water in Amsterdam's canals may appear still and placid, but it is not stagnant. The city operates a complex and mostly invisible system to ensure the canals are kept clean. If the water were left to sit, it would quickly become polluted and unhealthy. To prevent this, the canals are flushed almost every night in a carefully managed process. A system of locks and pumps works in concert to draw in clean, fresh water from the IJsselmeer, a large lake to the east of the city. This fresh water is then used to push the dirtier canal water out through locks on the other side of the city, which eventually sends it into the North Sea. This nightly flushing is a massive feat of water management that goes unnoticed by most residents and visitors, a silent, powerful system that keeps the city's defining feature alive and relatively clean. In the early 20th century, a unique and highly expressive architectural style flourished in Amsterdam, which came to be known as the Amsterdam School. You can see it in housing blocks and public buildings throughout the city, but especially in iconic structures like Het Schip. This style is characterized by its incredibly expressive use of brick, which the architects treated not just as a building material, but as a sculptor uses clay. The buildings feature rounded, organic forms, with intricate patterns of brickwork, integrated sculptural details, ornate window frames, and whimsical towers. The goal was to create a total work of art, where every part of the building, inside and out, was part of a unified, artistic vision. It was a reaction against stark industrial design, and an attempt to create beautiful, humane, and inspiring environments for ordinary working people. At the edge of the old harbour stands a stout, formidable stone tower, called the Schreierstoren. This tower, whose name translates to Weeper's Tower, is one of the few remaining parts of Amsterdam's medieval city wall, built in the late 15th century, as a key part of the city's defences. A persistent local legend gives the tower its sorrowful name, telling the story of this being the spot where women would stand and weep as they watched their husbands' ships sail off to sea. They would wave goodbye as the ships headed out on long, dangerous voyages for fishing, trade or war, never knowing if they would ever return. While the story may be more romantic than historically verifiable, it gives the old defensive tower a poignant, human dimension. It stands today as a silent witness to the city's deep and enduring connection to the sea. The Westergas fabric was once a place of heavy industry and pollution. This sprawling complex of 19th-century buildings served as the city's gasworks, producing town gas from coal for lighting and heating. When the city switched to natural gas in the 1960s, the plant became obsolete and was left to decay, its soil heavily polluted from decades of industrial use. Instead of demolishing the site, the city undertook a massive cleanup and transformation project. Today, the Westergas fabric is a vibrant cultural park. The beautiful, red brick industrial buildings have been meticulously restored, and now house cinemas, restaurants, art galleries, and event spaces. The surrounding grounds have become a green park, a popular place for walking and relaxing. It is a prime example of adaptive reuse, a successful effort to preserve the city's industrial heritage, while giving it a new, clean and creative life as a place of community. The thousands of houseboats moored along Amsterdam's canals are a unique and iconic feature of the city, suggesting a charming and simple way of life, floating freely on the water. These homes, however, are not as disconnected as they might appear. They are part of a complex, hidden infrastructure network that lies beneath the water's surface. To provide the houseboats with modern amenities, a system of flexible pipes and cables runs from the canal wall to each individual boat. These underwater connections supply fresh water, electricity, and gas, and crucially, they also connect the boats to the city's sewage system, which is essential for keeping the canals clean. This unseen network allows the houseboats to function as permanent, comfortable homes, fully integrated into the city's utility grid. It is another layer of Amsterdam's hidden engineering, making a unique lifestyle possible. The Rijksmuseum is the grande dame of Dutch museums, a veritable cathedral of art and history, yet it has a very unusual feature that speaks volumes about life in Amsterdam. The very heart of the museum is famously bisected by a public underpass. This vaulted, tunnel-like passage allows pedestrians and, most importantly, cyclists to travel directly through the building, serving as a busy public thoroughfare and a shortcut used by thousands of commuters every day. There is something wonderful and uniquely Dutch about the idea that you can cycle through the nation's most important museum without buying a ticket. It treats the building not just as a sacred institution, but as part of the living, breathing fabric of the city. The sound of bicycle bells echoing in the passage is a constant reminder of the city's priorities, where art and daily life flow together seamlessly. The Damrak is the wide, bustling street that leads from Central Station to Dam Square, serving as the first impression of the city for many visitors. It is a busy corridor of trams, shops and people, but this street was not always here. Originally, the Damrak was the final stretch of the Amstel River, a wide, open harbour, where ships would dock right in the heart of the city. In the 19th century, this part of the river was filled in to create the new street, and to make way for the Stock Exchange building. Underneath the pavement, the tram tracks, and the foundations of the buildings, lies the river's original, buried course. When you walk down the Damrak today, you are essentially walking on water, or at least, on the memory of water. The street follows the path of the old river, a ghostly presence hidden just beneath the surface of modern life. As you walk through Amsterdam's residential neighborhoods, you might catch a glint of brass on the pavement beneath your feet. If you look down, you may see a small, square plaque embedded among the cobblestones. These are called stolperstein, or stumbling stones, and they are tiny, poignant memorials, placed in front of the last chosen homes of victims of the Holocaust. Each stone is engraved with the name of a person, their date of birth, the date of their deportation, and the place where they were murdered. There are thousands of these stones all over the city, and indeed across Europe. They are not grand monuments, but are small, personal, and unavoidable, as you stumble upon them in the course of your daily life. They are a quiet, powerful reminder of the individual lives that were lost, returning their names to the very neighborhoods where they once lived. The IJ River separates Amsterdam's historic center from the rapidly developing district of Amsterdam Noord. For decades, this northern part of the city felt distant and disconnected, but today it is an essential and integrated part of the city, thanks to a fleet of blue and white boats. The GVB ferries are a vital component of the public transport network, and they are completely free to use. They shuttle pedestrians, scooters, and thousands of cyclists back and forth across the water, all day and all night. This constant, rhythmic dance of boats is a fundamental part of the city's daily life. The short journey offers a moment of calm, a chance to feel the breeze and see the city's skyline from the water. The ferries are more than just transport. They are the threads that stitch the two halves of the city together. In the center of the bustling Newmarket Square stands a building that looks as if it belongs in a fairy tale. The Vogue, with its many towers and castle-like appearance, is one of the city's oldest non-religious structures, and its history is a story of constant adaptation. It began its life in the 15th century as a city gate, a part of the medieval defensive walls. When the city expanded, the gate was no longer needed for defense, and was converted into a weighhouse, de Vogue, where goods were weighed and taxed. Later, it became a guild hall for various trades, most famously the Surgeons' Guild. It was here, in the upper floor Theatrum Anatomicum, that public dissections were held, one of which was famously painted by Rembrandt. Today it houses a restaurant, its long and varied history contained within its ancient walls. Floating on the water near Central Station is a structure you simply cannot miss. The Sea Palace is a massive, ornate, and unapologetically grand Chinese restaurant, built in the traditional style of an imperial palace, with 3 stories of curved roofs, intricate carvings, and glowing red lanterns. It is a well-known landmark, a piece of architectural fantasy moored among the more sober Dutch buildings. What makes it even more remarkable is its origin. The entire restaurant was not built in Amsterdam. It was constructed in China and then hoisted onto a transport vessel and sailed all the way to the Netherlands in 1984. It is a surprising and impressive piece of logistical work. The Sea Palace is a floating piece of another world, a testament to the city's long history of global connections, brought here in the most direct way imaginable. Near the lively Leidseplein stands the American Hotel, a national monument and a beautiful example of the Art Nouveau style. While the hotel itself is historic, its most famous feature is the Café American on the ground floor. Stepping inside is like entering a different era entirely. The interior is a stunning and perfectly preserved masterpiece of design, featuring high arched ceilings, intricate stained glass windows, and famous Tiffany lamps that cast a warm, gentle glow. For over a century, this cafe has been a celebrated meeting place for artists, writers, and intellectuals. The atmosphere is one of timeless elegance and quiet conversation, a place where you can sit at a table by the window, watch the city go by, and feel connected to the generations of creative people who have done the exact same thing in this very room. The authentic sound of Amsterdam is not found in the solemn chime of church bells or the metallic rumble of trams, but rather in the constant, gentle tring-tring of bicycle bells. This delicate and persistent sound forms the city's unofficial soundtrack, a subtle layer of noise that emanates from every street and canal path. It functions as a nuanced language all its own, where a short, polite ring communicates, "Excuse me, I'm passing on your left," while a more insistent series of rings might convey a warning to a pedestrian in the bike lane. This is the audible pulse of the city's circulatory system, the sound of hundreds of thousands of people navigating their daily lives. It is a noise that is simultaneously functional and deeply characteristic of the place, becoming one of the small, everyday details you find yourself missing upon departure. It is, quite simply, the fundamental rhythm of life in Amsterdam. As the afternoon light begins to fade, a subtle but significant shift occurs across the city. This is the time for the Canonia de Borrel, a cherished Dutch ritual that marks the transition from the workday to the evening. It is not quite dinner, and it is more than just a simple drink. It is a specific moment for unwinding and conversation. Friends and colleagues gather in a cozy cafe or bar, for a glass of beer or wine, which is almost always accompanied by small, savory snacks. The most essential of these are bitterballen, which are deep-fried breaded balls with a savory meat ragu filling. The borrel is a pause, a collective exhale at the end of the day. It is a simple, informal, and deeply ingrained part of the city's rhythm, a moment to reconnect before heading home or out for the evening, a small celebration of the day's end. There is a particular scent that hangs in the air at Amsterdam's street markets, a warm and sweet perfume that is nearly impossible to resist. It is the smell of freshly made stroopwafels. This iconic Dutch treat is simple but perfect in its execution. A street vendor takes a ball of dough, presses it in a hot waffle iron until it's cooked, and then skillfully splits the thin baked waffle in half while it's still hot. The inside is slathered with a warm, gooey caramel syrup, the komaya, stroop, before the two halves are pressed back together. The result is a warm, fragrant cookie that is crispy on the outside and soft and chewy on the inside. The smell of the baking waffle and the sweet caramel is inseparable from the atmosphere of places like the Albert Kitemarkt. It is a scent that means comfort, warmth, and a small delicious moment of indulgence in the middle of a busy day. Once a year, on King's Day, the entire city of Amsterdam sheds its usual regulations and transforms. The streets, normally just for transit, become a giant, open-air flea market, or vrijmarkt, in a city-wide ritual of commerce and celebration. On this day, everyone is allowed to sell their second-hand goods without a permit, and without paying tax. People lay out blankets on the pavement, in parks, and along canals, creating a sprawling, chaotic and joyful marketplace, where you can find everything from old toys and books, to vintage clothing, and forgotten household items. The day is filled with good-natured haggling, music, and a sea of people dressed in orange. But perhaps the most peaceful part of this ritual is the quiet aftermath. The early morning after the party, when the streets are littered with confetti, and a few leftover items, silent under the new day's sun. The brown cafes or brewing cafes are the heart and soul of Amsterdam's social life, functioning as the city's public living rooms. These are cozy, unpretentious pubs that have been serving their neighborhoods for generations. The name comes from the color of their interiors, as the wood-paneled walls and ceilings have been stained dark brown by decades, sometimes centuries, of cigarette smoke and conversation. The lighting is low and warm, the furniture is old and comfortable, and the atmosphere is invariably welcoming. These are not trendy bars but timeless institutions, places where locals come to read the newspaper with a coffee, meet friends for a beer after work, or have a quiet conversation late into the night. They are repositories of stories, their dark walls saturated with the city's collective memory, and countless conversations. Eating raw herring is a quintessential Dutch experience. a street food ritual that can be found all over Amsterdam at small herring carts, or herring parked on bridges and squares. The herring, which is lightly brined, is typically served with chopped raw onions and pickles. While tourists are often given the fish sliced on a paper plate, the traditional and more theatrical way to eat it is to do as the locals do. You take the fish by its tail, tip your head back, and lower the entire herring into your mouth, taking a few bites. It is a fresh, salty, and surprisingly mild taste of the sea. This ritual connects the city back to its long history as a fishing and trading port. It is a simple, honest and deeply traditional taste of Holland, served up on a street corner, with no fuss or ceremony. For one magical evening every August, the Prinsengracht Canal transforms into a spectacular open-air concert hall for the beloved city tradition of the Prinsengracht concert. A large stage is constructed on a pontoon in the water, positioned directly in front of the historic Hotel Pulitzer, where a world-class orchestra, or soloist, performs a program of classical music. The audience, however, is what makes the event so unique. While there is some formal seating on the quay, thousands of people attend the concert from their own boats. The canal becomes a flotilla of small vessels, their occupants sharing wine and food as they listen to the music drifting across the water. As evening falls and the lights come on, the atmosphere becomes truly enchanting. It is a moment when the city's canals become a shared space for art, community and celebration, a truly unforgettable Amsterdam experience. It does not happen every year, a fact which makes the occasion all the more special. When a cold snap is deep and long enough for the canals to freeze solid, a kind of collective joy spreads throughout Amsterdam. Residents watch the news and check the ice thickness with great anticipation. Once it is declared safe, a city-wide ritual begins. Amsterdammers of all ages, from small children to the elderly, seem to drop everything to go ice skating. The canals, normally arteries of water traffic, become vast, open-air ice rinks. This tradition connects the modern city directly to its 17th century past, evoking the famous winter landscape paintings of artists like Hendrik Averkamp. For a few precious days, the city is transformed into a winter wonderland, and its residents glide through a landscape that has been the stuff of dreams and art for centuries. Before the city fully awakens, a quiet ritual unfolds at the Bloemenmarkt, Amsterdam's famous floating flower market, where stalls rest on barges moored in the single canal. In the pre-dawn quiet, the vendors arrive and silently unroll the green awnings of their stalls. They then begin the careful work of arranging their wares for the day, filling buckets with millions of colorful tulips, daffodils and hyacinths. Wooden crates are stacked high with bulbs of every variety, each one promising a future garden. The air is cool and still, filled only with the soft sounds of preparation as the market is readied for the crowds to come. It is a peaceful behind-the-scenes moment, a silent explosion of color being organized in the gray morning light, the quiet beginning of one of the city's most vibrant and fragrant daily spectacles. Late at night in Amsterdam, long after the bars have closed and the streets have grown quiet, a different kind of culinary ritual often takes place. For many, this is the time for a trip to FEBO, a chain of Dutch automats that offers a fast food experience unlike any other. The main feature is a wall of small, glass-fronted vending windows, each containing a different hot snack. You put your coins in the slot, open the little door, and retrieve your chosen item, with the most popular choices being croquettes, croquetten, and a type of minced meat sausage called a frikandel. It is a simple, anonymous, and deeply satisfying transaction that requires no conversation, just the quiet clink of coins, and the reward of a hot, savory snack. It is a beloved institution, a final, comforting stop on the way home for generations of Amsterdammers. Cycling in Amsterdam is more than just a mode of transport. It is a form of collective intuition governed by an unwritten rule. You must follow the flow. Locals ride with a confidence and ease that comes from a lifetime of practice, gliding through narrow streets and busy intersections in a seamless, coordinated stream that resembles a school of fish. You can often spot tourists by their hesitant, wobbly riding and their uncertain glances, as they try to apply logic to a system that runs primarily on instinct. To truly cycle in Amsterdam is to surrender to this flow, to trust the movements of those around you, and to become part of the city's kinetic energy. It is a dance that is learnt over time, a shared rhythm that keeps the entire city moving smoothly and efficiently. In mid-November, the holiday season in the Netherlands officially begins with a grand and festive arrival. Sinterklaas, the Dutch equivalent of St. Nicholas, makes his entrance into Amsterdam not by a sleigh from the North Pole, but by sailing into the city on a large, traditional steamboat, which is said to come from Spain. His arrival is a massive public event, where the boat, laden with his helpers, is greeted by thousands of children and their parents lining the canals. Sinterklaas, on his white horse, then leads a great parade through the city. This national tradition is a huge spectacle that kicks off several weeks of festivities, culminating on December 5th. The quiet moment comes the morning after the arrival, when the decorated steamboat is moored silently on the Amstel, its long journey over, a festive promise resting on the water. There is a Dutch word that is central to the culture, yet famously difficult to translate directly into English. The word is gezelligheid, which describes a feeling rather than a specific thing. It can mean coziness, conviviality, contentment, or a sense of belonging, and it is a concept perfectly embodied by an evening spent in a candle-lit Amsterdam cafe with a close friend. It is the warmth of the room, the soft light, the quiet hum of conversation, and the feeling of being completely at ease. Gezelligheid is not something you can buy or schedule. It is a moment of simple, shared pleasure. It can be found in a crowded living room on a rainy day, or during a quiet drink in a brown cafe. It is the pleasant feeling of comfort and togetherness, a cornerstone of the Dutch national character, and a feeling you can find everywhere in Amsterdam. The trams of Amsterdam are a constant presence, a rhythmic and essential part of the urban soundscape. Their clatter on the tracks and the electronic chime they make before the doors close are as familiar to locals as the sound of bicycle bells. Each tram line has its own specific frequency and rhythm, and an experienced Amsterdammer can often tell which tram is approaching just by the sound it makes, without even needing to look. The trams move through the city like patient, metallic creatures, reliably following their prescribed paths. They are a steady and dependable pulse, a sound that signifies movement and connection throughout the city. Late at night, the sound of a lone tram gliding through a rain-slicked, empty street is a particularly atmospheric and lonely sound, the city's heartbeat slowing down for the night. For food lovers in Amsterdam, Saturday morning often means a trip to the Noordermarkt. This bustling market, held in the Jordaan district in the shadow of the historic Noorderkerk, is a cherished weekly ritual. It is primarily an organic farmers' market, and it attracts a loyal crowd of locals who come to do their weekly shopping. The stalls are laden with beautiful fresh produce, artisanal cheeses, rustic breads, fresh fish, and flowers. The atmosphere is lively and convivial, a stark contrast to the anonymity of a supermarket. People greet the vendors they have known for years, sample pieces of cheese, and fill their bags with the best ingredients the region has to offer. It is a celebration of good food and community, a place where the simple act of grocery shopping becomes a pleasant and social weekend ritual. As you walk through Amsterdam, you may be surprised by the sudden sound of loud, cheerful and slightly mechanical music. This is the sound of a draaiorgel or street organ, a traditional and beloved part of Dutch street life. These are not small hand-cranked instruments but massive, wheeled carts, powered by a motor, that play music from perforated cardboard books. Each organ has its own unique sound, and a regular route that it follows through different neighborhoods, bringing its cheerful and uniquely Dutch sound to the streets. The organ grinder, who is also the instrument's caretaker, collects money from appreciative passers-by. For some, the music is a nostalgic delight. For others, it can be an acquired taste. For everyone, however, the sound of the draaiorgel is an unmistakable and uniquely Dutch urban experience. French fries are a popular snack all over the world, but in Amsterdam, they have been elevated to an art form. Here, they are called patat, and they are typically served in a paper cone with a tiny wooden fork. While you can get them with simple mayonnaise, the ultimate local indulgence is a patatje oorlog. The name translates to war fries, and it describes the chaotic but delicious battle of sauces that covers the potatoes. The classic combination, is a generous serving of thick mayonnaise, a sweet and savory peanut satay sauce, and a sprinkling of finely chopped raw onions. It may sound like a strange mix, but the combination of creamy, nutty, sweet and sharp flavors is incredibly satisfying. It is a messy, decadent and beloved snack, a true taste of Dutch street food culture. In a city with more bicycles than people, bicycle theft is a serious and constant concern, which has led to a specific and careful ritual of locking one's bike. A single simple lock is rarely considered sufficient. The typical Amsterdamer uses at least 2, and sometimes 3, different locks to secure their vehicle. First, there is the frame lock or ring lock, which is permanently attached to the bike and immobilizes the back wheel for quick stops. For longer parking, a second, heavy-duty chain lock is used. This is looped through the front wheel and the frame, and then secured to a fixed object like a bike rack, a bridge railing or a lamp post. This two-lock system is a deeply ingrained habit, a necessary procedure to ensure your bike is still there when you return. It is a small daily ritual of security in a city on wheels. Amsterdam is a city that loves its football, and when the local team, Ajax, or the Dutch national team plays a major match, a strange and wonderful thing happens to the city's rhythm. As the game begins, the normally bustling streets fall into an eerie silence, the constant hum of bicycles and conversation fading away as the city holds its collective breath. The population's attention is focused on television screens in living rooms and cafes, with the only sounds being the distant commentary drifting from open windows. This silence, however, is punctuated by sudden explosive eruptions of noise. When a goal is scored, a collective roar rises up from all corners of the city at once, echoing across the canals in a wave of shared joy or despair that unites thousands of people in a single, emotional moment. For 90 minutes, the city becomes a single, massive stadium. In the summer, when the evenings are long and warm, the public and private spaces of Amsterdam begin to blur in a charming way. The front steps of the city's canal houses are often very steep and narrow, leading directly to the public sidewalk. These steps, which are technically public space, become temporary, informal living rooms for the residents. It is a common and delightful sight to see people sitting on their front steps, often with a cushion, sharing a bottle of wine with a neighbor, eating a simple dinner, or just watching the world go by. This simple act turns the sidewalk into a communal terrace, reflecting the city's relaxed and social atmosphere. It is also a clever adaptation to the general lack of private outdoor space, like gardens or large balconies, making the street itself an extension of the home. A tour of the canals by boat is a classic Amsterdam experience, which for many years was accompanied by the constant chug and smell of diesel engines. Recently, however, a new sound, or rather a new quiet, has become part of the city's soundscape. In recent years, there has been a major and deliberate shift towards electric tour boats. These modern, silent vessels, glide through the water, with only a faint, unobtrusive hum. This change has made the experience of touring the canals much more serene and peaceful, allowing you to hear the water lapping against the sides of the boat, the conversations of people on the bridges, and the sounds of the city itself. The quiet hum of these electric boats has become a new, peaceful layer in the city's audio environment, a sign of a cleaner and more tranquil future for its historic waterways. The Albert Kuip Market is a vibrant explosion of commerce and humanity that lasts all day long. But after the last stroopwafel is sold and the last fish is wrapped, a different and equally important ritual begins. As the vendors pack up their stalls and drive away, the street is left with the accumulated debris of a busy day's trade. This is when the sanitation crews move in, their work a swift and efficient performance. They use high-pressure hoses to blast the pavement, washing away all the dirt and garbage into the drains. Within a short time, the street is transformed, left glistening and clean under the streetlights, empty and quiet. It is a nightly reset, a powerful act of cleansing that prepares the stage for the market to be born all over again the next morning. Amsterdam has hundreds of bridges, and many of them need to open to allow boat traffic to pass through the canals. This constant opening and closing is a crucial civic ballet, performed by a small and often unnoticed group of people, the bridge keepers. In the past, many of these keepers lived in the charming little bridge houses located next to the bridges they operated. Today, the system is more centralized and remotely operated, but the rhythm remains. The keepers follow a daily schedule, responding to the needs of both water and road traffic. They are the gatekeepers of the city's arteries, ensuring that both boats and bicycles can move through the city with minimal disruption. Their work is a quiet, steady, and essential part of the city's flow. A human hand, guiding the complex machinery that keeps Amsterdam's two worlds, the world of water and the world of land, in harmony. Genever is the traditional spirit of the Netherlands, a juniper-flavored liquor that is the direct ancestor of modern gin. The best way to experience it is not in a noisy bar, but in a proflocale or tasting room, which are often old, historic establishments with a quiet, reverent atmosphere. The Genever is served in small, tulip-shaped glasses, filled right to the very brim, so full that surface tension holds the liquid in a delicate dome. This leads to a specific drinking ritual. To take the first sip without spilling, you do not lift the glass. Instead, you leave it on the bar, bend over, and slurp the first sip from the top. This is known as the kopstootje, or little headbutt. Only after this initial sip can you pick up the glass. It is a tradition that forces you to slow down and pay respect to the drink. When darkness falls, one of Amsterdam's oldest neighborhoods becomes defined by a single, pervasive color. In the red light district, the windows of the sex workers, rooms cast a uniform and surreal red glow that spills out onto the ancient cobblestones and reflects in the dark water of the canals. This light creates a visual rhythm that is silent and deeply atmospheric, transforming the narrow alleys and old facades into a dreamlike theatrical space. It is a light that is both inviting and anonymous, signaling a specific kind of commerce. Regardless of one's opinion of the industry itself, the visual effect is undeniable. This constant, nightly wash of red is a powerful and defining feature of the neighborhood's identity after dark, a silent, visual pulse that has been beating for decades. Along the beautiful single canal floating among the tour boats and residential houseboats is a very unusual vessel known as the Poisenboot, which translates to the catboat. This is a floating animal sanctuary, a spacious houseboat that has been converted into a shelter for stray and abandoned cats. It was founded in the 1960s by a local woman who began taking in stray cats until her collection eventually outgrew her house, making the catboat the creative solution. Today, it operates as a registered charity and has become a famous Amsterdam institution. Visitors can come aboard to meet the feline residents, who can be seen lounging in the sun and watching the world go by from behind the safety of a wire mesh. It is a charming and slightly surreal sight, a testament to the city's love for animals, and its ability to find a unique water-based solution to any problem. Amsterdam is a city of countless beautiful views, but one of the most unique is a kind of urban optical illusion. If you go to the corner of Reguliersgracht and Herengracht and stand on the bridge, you can find a very specific spot. From this exact vantage point, looking south along the Reguliersgracht, you can see a remarkable alignment of the arches of the bridges ahead, which line up in perfect succession. If the light is right and your position is precise, you can see through the arches to create a tunnel-like view of a total of 7 bridges. It is a secret that not every visitor knows, a small reward for finding the right place to stand. It is a moment of unexpected geometry and beauty, a perfect alignment of the city's structure that feels like a small piece of magic hidden in plain sight. When people think of a city of canals, they often think of Venice, and when they think of a city of bridges, they might think of Paris. However, Amsterdam quietly surpasses both in these signature features. The city is woven together by an incredibly dense and complex network of waterways and crossings. There are more than 100 kilometers, or about 60 miles, of canals that crisscross the city. These canals are spanned by over 1,500 individual bridges, which is more than double the number found in Paris. The sheer density of water and bridges is what gives the city its unique structure and character. It is a city that is as much water as it is land, and this intricate web is not just beautiful, it is the fundamental organizing principle of the city, a liquid street grid that has defined life here for centuries. The tax laws of the 16th century led to many narrow houses in Amsterdam, but one building takes this principle to an extreme. Located at Single 7, you can find what is often called the narrowest house in the city, and perhaps the world. Its facade is only 1 meter wide, which is barely wider than its own front door. It is a curious sliver-like building, squeezed between its much larger neighbors. The story is a little more complex, as this is actually the rear facade of a more normally proportioned house, with its main entrance on a different street. However, the visual effect of this tiny 1 meter wide facade is what has made it a famous architectural oddity. It stands as a quirky and amusing example of how Amsterdammers have always been creative with space, using every last inch of their valuable land. On the facades of some of Amsterdam's oldest buildings, you might spot a strange and colorful sculpture, the head of a man with his mouth wide open, often with a pained or surprised expression. These sculptures are called gapers, and they are a historical marker for a specific type of business. They were used to advertise the location of a pharmacy or a druggist. The open mouth was meant to show a person taking medicine, while the exotic or Moorish features were intended to suggest the far-off origins of the medicinal ingredients. In a time when many people could not read, these vivid, three-dimensional signs were an effective way to advertise. Only a few dozen of these gapers remain today, but they are a fascinating and slightly bizarre link to the city's medical and commercial past. The flag of Amsterdam is a simple, bold design featuring a red field with a black band and 3 white X's. A popular and romantic story claims that these 3 X's represent the 3 great dangers that have historically plagued the city: fire, floods, and the plague. While it is a compelling story, it is a modern myth. The true origin of the crosses is more mundane, but no less historic. The 3 X's are actually St. Andrew's crosses, as St. Andrew was a fisherman who was martyred on an X-shaped cross. The symbol was derived from the coat of arms of the Persine family, an ancient noble family, who once owned a great deal of land around the city. The crosses have been part of the city's coat of arms since the 13th century, a symbol of ancient lineage rather than historic disasters. In the Oosterpark, one of Amsterdam's large green spaces, you can find a strange and surreal sculpture, whose origin was, for a long time, a complete mystery. The sculpture, called the Violinist, depicts a metallic figure who appears to be breaking through the wooden floor of a park bandstand from below. The work is dynamic and startling, a metallic ghost emerging from the floorboards. It was installed anonymously in 1991, and the city simply decided to leave it in place. Only years later did the artist's identity become known. It was created by a local sculptor who was also a civil servant in the Public Works Department, which may explain how he was able to install it without anyone noticing. It remains a bizarre and beloved piece of public art, a testament to the city's tolerance for creative surprises. In a city where cycling is so fundamental to daily life, it makes sense that there would be a high-level advocate for it. Amsterdam has a bicycle mayor, a role that is unofficial but highly influential. The bicycle mayor is not an elected politician, but an independent advocate, chosen by a jury, who works to represent the interests of the city's cyclists. Their job is to collaborate with the city government, community groups, and businesses to improve and promote cycling culture and infrastructure. The bicycle mayor listens to the concerns of everyday cyclists and helps to translate those needs into tangible policy. The concept has been so successful that it has been adopted by cities all over the world. It is a uniquely Amsterdam innovation, a formal recognition that the city's most important mode of transport deserves its own dedicated champion. History has left many marks on Amsterdam, but few are as startling or as literal as the one found at Amstel 34. Embedded in the brick wall of this house you can clearly see a black, iron cannonball. This is not a replica or a decoration. It is a real cannonball that was fired into the house in 1813 during the Napoleonic Wars. As Prussian troops fought to liberate the city from the French, a battle took place on the frozen Amstel River, and this cannonball was fired from the other side, lodging itself in the wall of the house. After the battle, the homeowners made a surprising decision. Instead of repairing the damage, they chose to leave the cannonball in place as a permanent historical marker. It remains there today, a small, round, and very solid reminder of a violent moment in the city's past. Every city has its population of pigeons and sparrows, but Amsterdam's official city bird is something much larger and more impressive: the grey heron. These tall, prehistoric-looking birds are a surprisingly common sight in the urban environment. You can see them standing motionless on the edge of a canal, patiently hunting for fish. They are most famous, however, for their behavior at the city's street markets. The herons have learned that fish stalls are a reliable source of food, and they can often be found standing patiently and expectantly next to a fishmonger's cart, waiting for a handout. Their calm, stately presence among the hustle and bustle of the market is a slightly surreal and very Amsterdam sight. They are wild creatures that have perfectly adapted to the rhythms of the city, becoming a beloved part of its daily life. In the middle of the Oude Kerksplein, the square surrounding the Oude Kerk in the heart of the red light district, there is a small and unique monument. It is a bronze statue of a woman standing confidently in a doorway, named Belle, which was installed in 2007 as a tribute to the sex workers of the world. The inscription on the plaque below reads, in English, "Respect sex workers all over the world." The placement of the statue is significant, as it is in the very center of the industry it honors, a public and permanent statement of recognition and respect. It is a surprising and thought-provoking piece of public art, a small but powerful voice in a complex and often controversial neighborhood. It asks the thousands of people who pass by every day to consider the humanity of the women working there. For many years, small and charming bronze sculptures have been mysteriously appearing all over Amsterdam, often placed in unexpected locations like the side of a bridge, on a tree branch, or in a small park. These works were all created by an anonymous artist, who became known only as the Amsterdam sculptor. The sculptures are whimsical and delightful. One depicts a small man with a saw cutting off the very branch he is sitting on, while another shows three figures doing acrobatics. For a long time, their creator was a local legend. Eventually the artist was identified as a doctor who made the sculptures in his spare time, and installed them secretly at night. His works remain as small, delightful secrets for observant passers-by to discover, a playful and artistic treasure hunt woven into the fabric of the city. In a small shop in the Jordan, you can find an entire, fantastical world in miniature. The Mouse Mansion is the creation of a local author and artist, which began as a meticulously detailed dollhouse for a series of children's books. It is not a normal dollhouse but a sprawling, multi-roomed mansion, built for a family of mice, constructed almost entirely from cardboard boxes and recycled materials. Every room is filled with incredible, handmade miniature furniture, accessories and details. The project grew so large that it became a beloved shop and museum, where visitors can marvel at the incredible craftsmanship and the charming, cozy world that has been created. It is a testament to patience, creativity, and the power of imagination, a tiny, magical world hidden inside a normal Amsterdam street. The official office of the Prime Minister of the Netherlands is a small, charming tower in The Hague, known as the Torrentje. The Mayor of Amsterdam, however, has an official residence that is far grander. The AMBT Swoning is located at Herengracht 502, in the most prestigious part of the Canal Ring, an area known as the Golden Bend. It is not a typical narrow canal house, but a magnificent double-wide mansion, built in the 17th century for a wealthy merchant. Its stately, symmetrical facade and grand entrance make it one of the most impressive homes on the canal. The mayor lives in an apartment on the upper floors, while the grand rooms on the main floor are used for official receptions and functions. It is a symbol of Amsterdam's pride, and its historical importance as the nation's cultural and commercial capital. The New York Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange are famous symbols of global finance. But the concept of a public stock exchange did not begin in either of those cities. It began in Amsterdam. In 1602, to fund its vast trading operations, the Dutch East India Company, VOC, became the first company in the world to issue negotiable shares of stock. To facilitate the buying and selling of these shares, the world's very first stock exchange was established in Amsterdam, in a building designed by Hendrik de Keyser. This innovation allowed a much broader public to invest in commercial ventures, and share in the associated risks and profits. It was a revolutionary financial concept that laid the foundation for modern capitalism. The city that was built on trade became the city that invented the very engine of modern finance. In addition to having some of the world's narrowest houses, Amsterdam is also home to a classic spite house. Located at Oude Hoekstraat 22, this tiny red brick house is squeezed into what was once a gateway. The story goes that it was built by a coachman in the 18th century, who owned the land, but was refused permission by his wealthy neighbor to build a proper entrance to his property from the street. In an act of defiance, the coachman decided that if he could not have a gateway, he would build a tiny house in the gateway instead. The resulting structure is only 2.02 meters wide and 5 meters deep, yet it is a fully functional, if very small, house. It stands today as a quirky and amusing monument to a long-forgotten neighborhood dispute, a small building born from pure stubbornness. The canals of Amsterdam serve as a repository for many things, but most numerously for bicycles. Each year, thousands of bicycles end up in the water, whether they are thrown in as an act of vandalism, or simply fall in by accident. To keep the canals clear and navigable, the city employs a dedicated team of bicycle fishermen. These are not men with rods and reels, but operators of special boats equipped with large hydraulic claws. They move slowly along the canals, dredging the bottom and pulling up a surprising number of bikes. A single day's catch can include dozens of rusty, dripping bicycle frames. It is a strange and surreal sight, a constant battle against a unique form of urban pollution. The retrieved bikes are then taken to be recycled, their journey through the city's streets and canals finally at an end. Of all the many canals in Amsterdam, the Brouwersgracht, or Brewer's Canal, is often cited by locals as the most beautiful, and it is easy to see why. The canal is lined with some of the city's most perfectly restored 17th-century warehouses, alongside charming houseboats and elegant homes. The canal gets its name from its history as the heart of the city's beer industry. In the 16th and 17th centuries, this area was filled with breweries that used the canal water in their production, and the massive warehouses were used to store grain and barrels. Although the breweries are long gone, the name remains. Today, the Brouwersgracht is a peaceful and incredibly picturesque residential street. Its combination of grand architecture, calm water and beautiful houseboats makes it a perfect, postcard-like image of the city's quiet beauty. The Leidseplein is one of Amsterdam's busiest squares, a major center of nightlife and entertainment. On one side of the square stands the Stadschouwburg, the city's main theater. Tucked away almost unnoticed in a small annex of this grand building, is a tiny, fully functional police station, which is arguably one of the smallest police posts in the world. It consists of little more than a small office, and a reception desk, with a single door opening onto the bustling square. Its location is strategic, placing a police presence right in the heart of a major nightlife area. Its diminutive size, attached to such a grand and ornate building, is a charming and quirky detail. It is easy to walk past it 100 times without ever noticing this tiny outpost of law and order, hidden in plain sight. In the Vondelpark, Amsterdam's largest and most famous city park, there is a piece of public art specifically designed to encourage connection. It is called the Knuffelmuur, which translates to cuddle wall. The artwork is not a wall at all, but a pair of concrete benches placed opposite each other, which curve gently inwards. The design is simple but clever. If two people sit on the benches, one on each, the inward curve of the concrete subtly brings them closer together as they lean back. It is a piece of interactive art that encourages a moment of closeness and intimacy in a public space. It is a gentle and playful piece of social design, a small, concrete invitation to connect. On a quiet day in the park, the two empty benches curve towards each other, waiting patiently. The dancing houses of Amsterdam are not just a historical phenomenon. The entire city is, in fact, very slowly sinking. This process, known as subsidence, occurs because the city is built on a thick layer of soft peat and clay, which slowly compacts over time under the immense weight of the buildings. The groundwater level is also carefully managed, and changes in this level can cause the ground to settle further. The rate of sinking is only a few millimeters per year, a pace that is imperceptible to the naked eye. However, over decades and centuries, this slow movement can cause serious problems for buildings and infrastructure. The city employs a dedicated team of engineers and surveyors who constantly monitor the subsidence, using advanced technology to track the movement of buildings and ensure the city's slow descent does not lead to disaster. Hidden within Amsterdam's University Medical Center is a museum that is not for the faint of heart. The Museum Vrolijk is an unsettling but fascinating collection of anatomical and pathological specimens, started in the late 18th century by a father and son who were both professors of anatomy. Their collection, which was used for medical education, includes thousands of items, from human and animal skeletons to preserved organs in jars and specimens showing a wide range of diseases and congenital abnormalities. Walking through the collection is a strange and sobering experience. The shelves are filled with glass jars, creating eerie repeating patterns of organic forms. It is a stark and scientific look at the fragility and complexity of the human body, a historical collection that is both grotesque and strangely beautiful in its meticulous organization. From a certain corner in Amsterdam, the city's network of bridges multiplies in a dizzying and beautiful display. The spot is on the corner of Thorbeckerplein, looking across the Herengracht. From here, if you position yourself correctly, you can see a staggering number of bridges, which has earned this spot the nickname, the Bridge of 15 Bridges. Looking down the canal, you can see the 6 bridges that cross the Reguliersgracht, and to the left, you can see more bridges along the Herengracht. In total, with a bit of effort and clear weather, it is possible to count 15 bridges, though some of them are quite distant and small. It is another of the city's small, geometric secrets. The view is particularly beautiful at night, when the lights on the bridges are illuminated, creating a complex and magical web of light stretching into the distance. The official coat of arms of Amsterdam includes a motto that was not granted in medieval times, but in the 20th century. The motto reads, Heldhaftig, vastbereiden, barmhartig, which translates to besom, valiant, steadfast, compassionate. These powerful words were bestowed upon the city by Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands in 1947, as a formal recognition of the city's bravery and integrity during the Second World War occupation. The motto specifically honors the general strike of February 1941, when Amsterdammers from all walks of life stopped work to protest the persecution of their Jewish fellow citizens. It was a rare and courageous act of mass public protest against the Nazis in occupied Europe. The motto is now an official part of the city's identity, a permanent reminder of a moment when its people chose compassion and steadfastness in the face of great danger. In a tiny basement in the Jordan neighborhood lies what is claimed to be the world's first museum dedicated entirely to fluorescent art. Electric Ladyland is a small, psychedelic space that offers a unique and immersive experience. The main part of the museum is a large-scale fluorescent environment where visitors take off their shoes and step into a space that glows and changes color under ultraviolet light. The museum also showcases a collection of fluorescent minerals from around the world, which are rocks that look plain in normal light, but explode with vibrant color under black light. It is a strange and wonderful journey into a world of glowing art and natural phenomena. The museum is a tribute to the psychedelic culture of the 1960s, and a celebration of the hidden beauty that can only be seen in a different kind of light. Our walk through Amsterdam is coming to an end. Wherever you've drifted to, you don't need to come back. There's nothing more to listen for tonight. Sleep well.